you can call somebody fat on the internet and it does nothing. Whereas if you call somebody fat in real life, they're either going to punch you or cry. And either one of those is such a response that teaches you not to do it in the future. But that's, I mean, TikTok has been horrendous for this whole thing because there's just so many lies on TikTok, and you get more views the more you lie, the more fantastic you are, the more outrageous you are. And that's going to be a problem going forward for the world, period. Because the more that you're dishonest, like I've already noticed, if I was dishonest, I could make more money at YouTube. I could have an audience. I could have a whole bunch of people who love me, but I just have to be dishonest. I just have to play into what my audience wants. And it's just something I just can't do. So
I think the key though, actually, I actually don't think it's not necessarily dishonesty. The key is engagement, and dishonesty with people who fall for it. Tons of engagement.
Right.
There are plenty of times where like I think Professor Dave. Now I don't know how you feel about it, so maybe this isn't a good argument, but I would say that like he's someone who is successful. That I think is generally, he has a ton of educational content, whatever. I think generally he's being honest and being successful. Again, that might not be the best example because I'm sure he's definitely a dick. He's definitely a dick, but I think it's because he's right and he just... And
sometimes he's so funny. I mean, when he was talking about that Lord Jamar, I never laughed so loud in my life when he's like, Lord Jamar's my little bitch. And I'm like, oh my God. It was so funny. Shit. And then he's like, Lord Jamar's like, oh, and professor, you're not a professor. And then he's just like, okay, Lord Jamar. You're not a fucking lord either.
Oh, the irony. Holy shit.
So funny. But no, I mean, I think that, he's a dick, but he also, like you said, some of the things he says are right on. So I guess, I do take that back. You're right. Because he's
engagement. And disinformation is ultimate engagement because you get half of the people who are conspiracy theorists who are like, yeah, fuck this is terrible. And the other half of the people are like trying to debunk the nonsense and the misinformation. So it's the perfect storm.
Yeah, I think that
get engagement.
When people start doing what their audience wants, it's what's good for the channel because it will grow, and then more people will follow the channel because you're catering to that belief system, whatever that is, right? So if you are like I was the whole time, which was basically shunning both sides, it just hurt me and the whole time because the whole time I was in the middle. Science hated me, religion hated me. So because I don't know if you know, I'm anti-Christian, if you will, but I'm still, I guess you would call me, I wouldn't even say I'm a theist.
Like a deist-ish.
Yeah, deist-ish, I guess you would say. So, but that's not popular, right? There's no crowd looking for that. You are definitely talking a niche group that is not going to get you a good following. And you get attacked by Christians, tell you that you're Satanist and you must be, you're Satan, basically. And then the science side, if you deny that. So I'm just saying that's more what I'm talking about, is that somebody who's honestly in the middle that's wants to weigh options, and that's not popular. So
no, and it's the same reason why when you go on Twitter, it makes you think the world is on fire.
Right.
Because all the reasonable, rational people who are in the middle are like, this is not worth fucking engaging in this dumpster fire.
Right.
So everyone thinks that there's, everyone thinks that all 100% are either in this fringe over here, when really it's like probably one of these,
right.
Sort of bell curve sort of things. But all you see on the internet and in content, whatever, is kind of like that bell curve is like...
Yeah, and it's like the worst group of people too. It's like the people that engage, the people that are in comments on YouTube are not indicative of the population.
No, and because most people, the average people, like my wife, she watched some YouTube videos, and every now and then she'll hit the like button. She doesn't even scroll down to the comment section.
Right.
She just watches a few things and whatever. And that's why every video has, I have a video that has like 2 million views, and how many comments does it have? 2.2 million views, my most successful video, and 8,000 comments. So that just means that 2.19999 million people watched it and didn't say a thing.
Right, right.
Because, because no one's going to be like, yeah, great video. Like, that's not the common thing. What you see is, here's why I'm pissed off enough to,
right.
Talk. It's why every review is either a 1-star or a 5-star review.
Right.
Unless there's some...
I hate it or I love it. Right.
Yeah.
No, so I mean, I see lots of that as being a problem. TikTok's a problem. And I don't know how you fix it. I certainly don't have the answer to it, because now you said you were talking about the dead internet theory and the fact that we can't engage personally anymore. And Yeah, I find that to be outright. I can't believe the things that are allowed to be said about somebody else that would never go in real life. You know, in real life, you can't call somebody a pedophile, but on YouTube, you can call somebody a pedophile every day.
That's kind of like the intro in my script right now that I have for my video is it's effectively like, why is when I go online, and I'm a content creator, so I'm like chronically online kind of by design, by default, unfortunately. Right? Why is it that like 9 out of 10 of my engagements online are like 0 of the engagements I've ever had in my entire life?
Ever. I didn't even know how to navigate it. In fact, I still don't. In fact, I've made some of the dumbest decisions I've ever made because of not knowing how to act on the internet, and then realizing also you shouldn't really even need to learn that because it's not real. Right?
Dude, I am with you 100%. The problem is, like, one of my mistakes that I made as a content creator online was trying to be real, like genuine, and acting as if, you know, if someone were to come into my chat and say, wow, you know, you're a piece of shit, I would feel like the same way I would feel if someone got in my face and said it.
Right.
But I couldn't like detach because
it's been the hardest thing.
I made the mistake of having empathy and humanizing all these names when you can't do that if you want to have any amount of mental health.
No.
You need to detach because and the sad part is that it isn't real life, but what's scary is it's all real life. Real life is the internet now. You can't get away from it. When we're doing foreign policy via Twitter,
right,
and you have therapy, you know, via Zoom calls,
right, it is all there.
And you've got, you know, your prescription medication delivered by drone, and you go to the kiosk at McDonald's. Sorry, but like, we're not engaging as humans face to face anymore, and that face to face. This is actually a huge point that I'm going to make in my video, and it's one of the things I wanted to talk about, and there's not really time to now, but I actually made the prediction, this was my like scientific theory beforehand, that Jaren, Witsit, at least Jaren, but I'm like, I bet you everybody's probably going to get along and probably be like, yeah, the other people are pretty chill. And yet, before and after, mostly before, you know, they were like, fuck, it was just like shit slinging contests from all these people. But the moment you get in front of someone, and you have a disagreement, it's like,
it's not the same.
You have to exist for a few hours in front of them. You're motivated to not act like a piece of shit.
Not one name call. Nobody ever said, even though we had heated moments, there was never you're a moron, you're a retard. And I do think a lot of the people are probably people that live in their mom's basement, to be honest with you. They're people who never in their life got out. And so the internet creates an opportunity for them to be somebody that they're not, or somebody that they want to be, but are not. Right. So if you want to be somebody who hates I hate women. I hate women so much because I've never gotten a date. Well, then it's very easy to go on YouTube, and any woman that posts a video, you can go in there and say, oh, nice eyes. You know, you're ugly as batshit or whatever. And so then that girl sees that, and she then tries to engage with that person thinking that they are a rational human being, but that would never be said in person. That person would cower in front of that girl and wouldn't even be able to talk to her. So I think you're right. You have to really look at everybody that way, which sucks because there are some real people in the comments. I mean, you said one of the biggest mistakes I did was use my real name, and because you're trying to be, here's me, here's real, but then you forget that everybody else that's out there doesn't have to use their real name, and they get to say whatever they want about you, and you're like, no, look, I'm real. This stuff really happens to me in real life. I'm trying to give you and they're just like, they can say anything at any time because they're fake.
They see your emotions, they hear your tone
of
voice,
that.
And guess what you see? A colorful username.
Right, that's it.
Now, you know how, like, 20 years ago, there was this big fear that, like, violent video games were going to, like, completely make every teenage boy, like, a murderer, right? And that kind of generally turned out to be not true.
Right.
I have this kind of inverse theory that what they were effectively thinking was that the behavior inside of a game with, like, inside of a fake environment was going to influence them and how they behave in the real world. And I think there's like an interesting corollary between that, and if you think about what is like a Twitter profile, it's removed every aspect of real from it and effectively turned humans into avatars. So, like in GTA, the first thing you do when you get in a car is run over a pedestrian.
Right.
And that's effectively the moment we are engaging with avatars. It's not that we are treating like real people in real life the way we would treat people online. It's that we view people who are actually real online. We view them as fake avatars. So there's no emotion. We don't feel bad. There's no empathy. There's no regret. There's no shame.
You can call somebody fat on the internet and it does nothing. Whereas if you call somebody fat in real life, they're either going to punch you or cry. And either one of those is such a response that teaches you not to do it in the future. So there is no learning from interactions on the internet like there is in real life, where you learn through school how to treat people, how not to bully. That's kind of all done by reality. Reality teaches you. But if you instead remove yourself to the internet, now the reality is not real that you think is real.
There's no repercussions.
There's no repercussions, right? So that's the thing. So I guess the difference is, I wouldn't expect somebody who plays video games and gets very violent in video games. They also recognize, if I go out in public and I'm violent, I'll go to jail. So they can separate the two. But on the internet, so people don't treat people like shit in reality because they don't want to get hurt. But on the internet, it's like the video game where you can commit the murders. You can kill people. You can call people a pedophile, because what's going to happen? Nothing.
Yeah, our brain must do something. Like, our brain must do some processing that, like, when it sees a face, it's like human empathy, turn on the empathy centers, right, whatever. But you just don't get that switch flips that is like, hey, real person. You just don't get that when you're looking at Joe Schmo 94 with an American flag avatar. You just don't get that.
No.
But now what's really interesting too is that I can still run over like 100 pedestrians in GTA, but the moment I accidentally like punch my horse in Red Dead Redemption, I'm like, I instantly feel, which is really funny. I want to get into that at some point in my research as to why like kicking a dog by accident in a video game is like.
So what else are you doing that you call it dead internet theory? Are you doing the same thing along the lines of that they've erased a lot of the internet?
No. So the dead internet theory is basically the idea that a massive proportion of content and engagement online has been replaced by bots and by AI generated content.
Right.
So, because of that coupled with the fact that we are really bad at discerning truth, facts, disinformation, misinformation, the fact that social media and all of these things are focused entirely on engagement and what that means for the content,
right?
All of those things combined is that we are not treating humans like humans because they don't feel or seem like humans, because half the time they're not humans and we're taught and trained to not be humans. So it's the death of our humanity is what. So my video is like basically the dead humanity theory. Like what we're doing is we're killing our ability to empathize with humans. And I'm worried that like 40 years from now, the kids that grew up like from day one on the internet are going to be, they're already seeing now that they have problems like dating and having relationships. Oh
yeah. That's all gone. But yeah.
Because like I had to.
What year were you born?
88.
Oh, okay. You're a little younger than I am.
So basically like I had to get my first few girlfriends before I had a cell phone, So like.
Yeah, I like that.
And then AOL came out, and then I learned how to engage in the way that I had learned to as a young adult. I learned how to like communicate and converse and whatever, and I then had to learn how to apply that on the internet effectively, to communicate effectively. And that's why the Zoomers, they don't know how to communicate effectively, because everything's ironic memes and emojis and bullshit, and all the boomers, they don't understand that when they're communicating with just text, that they forget that none of the other things come across with it.
Right.
So they type without any emphasis that like we had to learn.
Right.
With either emojis or with capitalization or whatever. They just don't understand. So I remember teaching my grandmother how to use email back in the day, and I remember that she was like typing something while she was like laughing while she was typing it, like all real slow, and the message was like came across not good. Like the obvious the meme example is that LOL, that the
lots of love.
LOL means lots of love.
Yeah.
So someone is like, my wife died or whatever, and the old lady was like LOL.
Right.
It's kind of just like they now that isn't a perfect example, but
yeah,
there's major generational differences between how we communicate online there's three like major kind of chunks, and they're all engaging with each other in the worst environment, and we're fucked. I just feel like we're fucked, and I don't know.
I think we need to get the people together. Like, I think the best year, if you were born 79 to like 83, I think that's the people that were like me, because those people had both. They grew up without anything. We didn't have internet. We didn't have video.
That's what I'm saying. I got the internet when I was, like I didn't get Facebook until I was 19. That was the first social media.
Right. See, we would have been in the 20s. So it's like we saw, that what high school was like with nothing, and then saw right after what it brought, everything. So I think that we are in a unique position. And I think we're all kind of shell shocked and all kind of looking at it like, wow. And we all kind of act the same way online, which is a confusion, because we grew up and were raised in the real world, talking about being in your teens, even up to high school, and then everything switched. So that's a different beast, because we grew up all on the streets
with 1 foot in the real world, 1 foot on the internet.
Right, but then
is what it takes.
Yeah, and so we were trained just on one, and then not the other, but then the other came true. Whereas the people born, say, in 2000 are the opposite. They didn't learn at all at home. They learned all online. So it's a vastly different group of people, and how they act and how they interact. So, yeah, I mean, that's interesting.
They're all
video
on Twitter engaging with each other about the most contentious topics with an algorithm that favors the most.
Yeah, the most crazy, the
most toxic bullshit.
Right, because if you go crazy, then you get views.
That's what's determining elections. That's what's determining how people are what they're going to do with their kids and educate them, and it's scary. And the thing is that like it's such a macro problem. How the fuck do you even tackle it? You get a government task force that's all a bunch of 72-year-old dudes who are so out of touch. Like,
no, you need people. You need people. You need men to be men. You need. Like
except they watch Andrew Tate, so they're all fucking pieces of shit.
That's the problem. You got TikTok that. Here's what I noticed. TikTok is a problem. If you go to TikTok and search just Antarctica, I don't mean put anything else on it. Just put search Antarctica. Half the videos that come up are completely fake, and I'm like, okay, let's say I'm in the middle of intelligence between 1 and 100 people. So I put myself in the middle, and then I realize, like, even those videos kind of make me kind of look at it like, is that real? So then I realized the 50 people behind me in intelligence. Well, maybe the next 10 are the same as me. Maybe the next 10 after that. But there's like 20 people that believe it. So if out of every 100 people, we've got 20 people that are believing whatever's on TikTok. And then I'm like, no wonder these people are the way they are. There's TikTok videos like, this statue in Antarctica is bleeding blood. And like everybody in the comments like, I knew it. I've seen one of those before. And it's like, holy shit.
It's probably a lot more than the 10. If there's 100, it's probably like 60.
That's scary. Well, those guys told me about the James Randi thing, right? They said, Jaron, do you think that supernatural things exist? And I'm like, yeah, I think there probably isn't. Like, okay, what if we told you that no one's ever won this money? $500,000 is up for anybody. And then they said, and I was like, oh man, I wonder what the percentage is in the United States. They're like 70% people believe that there is. And they're like, but there isn't. So they're like, imagine that. That's a pretty big number of people who believe that there's something supernatural that exists, but it hasn't been shown ever.
Well, so I actually have a question, just like conceptually, theoretically, how could you demonstrate, like, couldn't there not be evidence for the supernatural almost by definition?
Well,
because like
so
we can only measure and test the things that engage with and interact with the natural world. So
they put somebody in another room and they say, okay, so they show them a deck of cards. They show them one card.
No, I know that, but what I'm saying is that like if let's say they did that test, that wouldn't prove the supernatural. That would prove that there's probably some quarks going back and forth, and so that like because something would have to be interacting between the brains in order for that to be like a measurable effect on reality. So like,
correct, but I don't know if that's necessarily to be measured in brains. I mean, that's so I don't know if you've ever done the Rice test. Now I can't explain this yet because I don't think that there's really a way to show, but you should do it just to see it because it's pretty incredible.
What's it called? The Rice test?
So what you do is take 3 jars and put the same amount of cooked rice, and make sure they're brand new jars, brand new mason jars. Put 3 amounts of cooked rice in each one, and then screw them tight as can be, and then that's done. You're not going to ever open them again. So then on one of them write the word love, on one of them write the word hate, and on the other one write neutral, and then put them in a cupboard in the same spot so that they're not like ones on left side. Put them in the same spot, and then every day at the same time, open the cupboard, grab the love rice, go around the corner away from the other ones, and tell it a bunch of things. You love it. It's cute. It looks good. It looks edible. You love it. It's doing really well and it's growing well or whatever. And then put it back. Then grab the bad rice and go over and around the corner and tell it it's a piece of shit. garbage, you're nothing, you're worthless. Within like 2 weeks, there will be a noticeable difference. The negative rice will be black. It'll be getting moldy. The neutral rice will be in the middle, and the love rice will be white as could be, edible. And that, to me...
And you did this?
I did twice. And both times... Now, again, could somebody say, well, you only got lucky twice? Sure. And it could also be something that you're doing in your mind to it. I think what it is vibratory audio can actually affect water, is what I think it is.